Roll call, please.
Harrell,
Here.
Manning,
Here.
Cosgrove,
Here.
Severson,
Present.
Williamson,
Here.
Bowie,
Here.
McGuire. Have a quorum, sir.
All right. Verification open meetings law.
It was noticed for, sir.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. So we got a 14-point agenda. Can I get a motion to approve? Chad? Second. Gary? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right. Minutes from June 17th. If there's no changes, I will approve as published. Somebody got you. All right. Public comment. Any public comment today? No public comment. Doesn't appear anybody's online. All right. Reports.
Okay, I've got just a few items to bring up here. So the boilers that we had, Precision had received the bids for, the new boilers. The asbestos was removed today. They came in, 8 o'clock this morning. They were gone by 10 after 10. So they took care of all the asbestos on the boilers. That's all been taken care of now. So Precision can now come in and remove the boilers, get ready for the new ones to come in August. Not sure what our cost is gonna be on that. I think it was right around $1,500, but we'll see what the bill comes in at. And then, another item is the air dryer for the pneumatic system for the compressors. We're having all kinds of problems with it leaking by the water separator in it and everything. So, and it's like 40 years old. So we're gonna replace that. Looks like it's gonna be right around $2,400 for the air dryer for the pneumatic system. That, all that air runs all of our units on this side of the building. So all of our penthouse units up there, the controls, everything's run on air. So we're gonna have to replace that. Again, it's 38 years old or something like that. So,
How much water's in the lines now?
yeah. So,
And the reason why I say that is every solenoid that you got at the end of that air line's gonna have water in it. So when that air dryer quits working,
yeah, it hasn't quit yet. So,
when it quits completely, it's gonna be a big problem.
Yeah.
Because once you get water in them solenoids, you'll be changing every solenoid.
so we're trying to get ahead of that before it quits because it's that old and it needs to be replaced. So that's, so that,
The solenoid is first.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've experienced a lot of that. It's not.
so with everything running on that, we've got to do something with it. So we're gonna go ahead and get that replaced. Again, boilers are gonna be removed in the next 2 weeks. They're planning on getting here right in the way next week to get started on tearing them apart. As you can tell, we have air on this side of the building. We struggled for about 2.5 weeks because we were down to 5 units. We're now up to 8. They were able to find holes in lines and stuff and resolder and get them all back together and get Freon back in them. Don't know what our bill is gonna be for those 2 weeks they were here every other day working on those, but we're up to 8, so. We'll get by for a little while, but have to look at next year or late this fall or early spring, because who knows what's gonna happen in the springtime with these over the winter.
So is the thought just to replace the units? That's the thought?
So with that, the guy, the engineer that helps out Ash Creek and Precision, when he was here looking at the boilers, he also has been working up a plan and ideas to come to this committee and inform you on what ways you should go with or what ideas you should think about going, whether to go. He's trying to get away from an engineered product or project. He thinks that we can get around that without having to go through an engineered process and just replace what we currently have with new controls, new units, with the old Freon. He thinks we can get to that, back to that without having that new stuff. But he wants to come here and talk to the committee and throw out ideas for you to mull over and figure out what you want. Well, that's what we're hoping the next meeting, so I wanted to bring it to the meeting first before I had him come here and just let you know that he would come here on his own time and give you some ideas on, and then you can discuss and ask questions to him about the systems.
Is he gonna have any cost related?
Is that,
Any cost?
no,
So just,
nope, he just said he would come here and give you this information. So,
Make it on cost, but could he at least maybe beforehand give us brief descriptions of our options so we can be a little up to speed for the meeting?
I can ask him to throw some or not numbers, but information together. I can ask, Ash Creek, Dale and, Benny down there, and I can ask them if they've got any kind of information we can send to you guys. Can we send it
Be
to them?
helpful.
yeah, even like a couple different options, like option one, this, option two, this, and at least we know what they were prior to the meeting. Kind of like what we're doing with Pine Valley and that water study.
Yeah.
Not to that extent, of course, but at least, okay, I'm gonna replace these, or we're gonna put a chill tower in, or we're gonna whatever.
Yeah, so he said we have to have redundancy no matter what. So you can't just put in one unit, one chiller, because if it goes down, now the jail is, everything is without. So you have to put in either 2 small chillers, or you have to put in basically 10 units again, so that you have something that's gonna run. If one shuts down, you've got the others to keep going for the redundancy. So that's what he's working on, to give us options and ways to look at to go, without having to have an engineered project, because then you gotta go to the state plans and do all that. So he's trying to get around all that.
Yeah, and we're not gonna wanna put $100,000 into a system that we may be moving out of. But we gotta do something.
Yeah, you don't have a choice, because I mean, with what we've had problems this year, we're gonna be right in the same boat next spring.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
to me, I don't think you have a choice. You're gonna have to do something soon. So, anyway, so that's up for the next meeting. I'm gonna try to get in here for that, but I'll try to get some information ahead of that to get out to you guys, to get out to the committee. And then Mark, Chair, you were asking for a list of things throughout the building. I've been making a list as I go. I've got a few things here. Do you want me to send that to you, or do you want?
You can send it to all of us. I just
Okay.
want a list to see, okay, where are we at? Because every meeting, we got a new problem,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So let's
Definitely.
get all the problems that we foresee. And kind of see, because the deferred maintenance program we've been on is probably working the best. And I don't you're always gonna have some surprise to some degree, but some of this stuff, we need to be able to meet capital project wise.
We didn't put any of them in the CIP for the next couple of years to try.
I've been putting in for 4 years for this CIP, and it's been denied all 4 years, but it's been pushed out. It just keeps getting pushed out. Because we were asking for 300,000-400,000 over the last 4 years, and it just says we don't have it. Can it go another year? Can it go another year? So,
We do have the funds set aside for the boiler. We were able to find
Right.
funds to take care of the boiler. And we do believe we'll have funds for the air conditioning to replace that without having to go to short-term borrowing for that.
you say there are funds possibly for that?
Yeah.
Okay. But previously to that, we didn't have anything. They kept asking me to push it out to the next year, so that's why nothing has ever been done in the last 4 years.
And the boiler was a lot less than what we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, it come in about 60,000 less than what they had estimated right away. So the boilers, you guys approved it was 97,000, and they estimated 160 to 180 at the beginning. So that came in a lot less than what we had planned.
That's almost it.
So,
Do you know if the order was placed, an order was placed on the boilers yet?
yeah, they'll be here first part of August, first or second week of August, he said. So, And then they'll be installed, and then, like they said in that meeting, the company that they purchased them from will fire them. They won't do it themselves. They'll install them, but the company will come in and fire them. So that there's no questions on their product. So,
Yeah, so that, as far as that list goes, Randy, I just keep compiling and just send it to all of us.
Okay.
It's not a secret by any means, and the more everybody gets to see it, it just, like I said,
and some of the items I have on here, I can still cover with my buildings budget that I currently have. Because they're small enough in numbers, like pumps and pump motors and stuff like that. I mean, you're looking at, a motor is running $800 to $1,000, and then the pump itself for the impeller and all that, another 1,100 to 1,200. So those small items, even though they're on here, I can cover those through my normal budget.
it'd be good to call that out, you know, if you're making a spreadsheet, just call all of them. What you need money for and what you're covering.
Yeah, I mean, the big items, I can just tell you what they are, like the 2 furnaces that are, they're a water source heat pump above the courtroom. There's 2 of them that control the courtroom, the upper and lower part of the courtroom. They're a water source heat pump, which they do heating and cooling. Again, the water we feed to it, that's what controls, or that's how we get the water up there. And then it's got a compressor in it, but they've had 3 on leaks. They've been soldered, they've been fixed. So again, we're probably looking at within the next year, hopefully they'll make it. So again, they're probably 10, 11 years old. They've been worked on already. So that's one of them. The boiler, the backup boiler in the small mechanical room. That's a 50-year-old boiler. Yes, it's been inspected. It starts twice a year. We start it twice during the winter time just to let it run. Again, in order to take the load off of the 2 new ones, they recommended putting a high efficiency in there, because that one we can just vent out the wall. We don't have to worry about any special exhaust or anything like that. We could put a high efficiency and it runs on a different, they could tie them together so they can, that one will run so it gets usage on certain times, and then these could take a break, because these 2 over here will run all the times. But they can make that, so that's another suggestion they had, putting a high efficiency, a smaller one over there.
Need a new control system then?
Is that?
Will that need a new control system then to coordinate that?
Yeah, whatever it takes to tie into the ones over here to, I would have to think it'd have to have a new controller. But again, that's questions for them. So, again, those are some of the bigger items that they're gonna be costly, but.
Well, that's what we need. Otherwise, we just, hey, we need this next month because the courthouse
And we may.
is. Yeah.
And I don't know what our time frame
Is
is.
that the one that has
so-
the rusted pans? That's the one had the rusted pans, and all that was all.
It's not just.
When I was first down here, we crawled up in that room, yeah. Get to them through the attic.
So, and that's all I have.
All right, as far as activities go for the month, it's been pretty much the basics: mowing, culvert installation, and then a big shouldering project on the state. It was a $100,000 project. It ran from all of Highway 14 from the edge of town all the way to the county line and back. Took us a couple weeks to get that one done. That's a lot of gravel to be placed out there. And then we had kept a small skeleton crew on the side doing the standard mowing, and then we dealt with a lot of trees being down from the current storm. So that's just on the daily activities there. Monthly bills, grand total this month is $570,014.12. The big expenditures to look at is one from Universal Truck Equipment. That is the last truck from the 2024 year ordering. That's the body bill for it. It is done, it's been done, completed, and turned into us. So that truck is now currently in the fleet. don't know how to really pronounce that name, Swiderski Equipment. So with looking at eliminating a lot of our inventory that we have a lot of, so we've dropped one dozer from our fleet, we've dropped one grader from our fleet. We're either selling them outright on Wisconsin surplus or we're using it as trade-in value. And that $45,000 represents a mowing tractor. We also got rid of one of our loaders as well. The reason why we did that is our mowing fleet is at bare bones minimum. We have some pretty old tractors that needed to go and we needed to replace. And we also need to look at trying to minimize having multiple loaders sit around not being used. So what we did was we found it's a used tractor up there. It had a loader on it. It's a 100+ horsepower tractor and it came with a side mount mower. So it's something that we can continuously use year round to get revenue off of, and we can eliminate some of this other equipment we have sitting around. So we found that tractor and just got delivered today. And then the other bigger expenditures are culverts, and a lot of these aren't just like culvert inventory where we're looking at bulk shipments. These are some of those cost share culverts for the townships that need to be replaced. We've been working on those on the side as well. So that should take care of the monthly bills, Mr. Chair. Then
Brooks tractor, 19 grand at Brooks, what do we buy there?
that is the new transmission for the grader. And we would have had a steeper bill, but we actually traded in the dozer for $20,000 off that price tag for that repair. New grader is going to run you $380,000. So we took our newest grader that had a bad transmission in it, and we decided to replace that one. So it was still a relatively low hour machine, and we took our oldest grader, which was a 1981, 86 maybe, and we got rid of that one instead. Any more on the monthly bills?
I got any questions?
See, Josh, Jeff was such a big issue like 2016, 17, 18, and you just mentioned we got a newer truck. Are you finding that kind of going away, or you still have issues with that?
DEF is always going to be an issue. DEF systems have improved some since they first came out. It's hard to tell. Generally, DEF, we're not going to see a lot of issues with that until about 5 to 6 years of ownership. That's when a lot of that stuff tries to rear its ugly head. And that can depend, like take our two Western Stars, which were bought probably 2016, 2015, or sister trucks. And 6 years later, one, and then the next one within a week, their DEF systems went bad, and it was $18,000 a piece to replace those systems.
Set them out along the road, maybe somebody will delete them for you.
Yeah, we don't have the right to delete those because of emissions.
I know.
Okay, also in your packets, besides just looking at reviewing the monthly bills, this is where reality starts to set in. The going thing is highway's got it, highway has the money, we're loaded. That idea, it's not reality anymore. So we're gonna start looking at a sheet just like you see on the screen here, and every time we meet, we're gonna review this. So what we've done is everything listed out there on the left is the mother accounts. Everything we do kind of falls under each one of those categories, you know, county trunk bridge, county end bridge, machinery, equipment, and so on and so forth. And those are the big representations of hundreds of different accounts, but those are basically the mother ones. So the balance January 1, you'll notice that is blank, and that is because we haven't had our closing entries from the auditor yet of where we ended up last year. And I really want you guys to take a look at the tax allocation because, you know, tax levy, we've been stagnant now for several years at the 1,663,500. So you can see how we break that down. A lot of that goes into county trunk highway system and then administration. Administration, we're going to have to start budgeting $600,000+ a year just out of tax levy alone to cover wage increases, which means there's going to be a reduction in the county trunk system. So then you look at the next column over, which is fund budget. That's the theoretical amount that we have just out of tax levy alone broken out of how it is placed in our different accounts to run it. So then the next thing is the year-to-date revenues. The big numbers there, the totals at the bottom is what you really should be looking at. So you can see current standard right now, or current to date as in the end of May, because that's the latest closed entry ones for this year. Revenues only produced $2.3 million. And then you can see in the next column, expenses, we're at 3.5 million. So you can see towards the end of that, the current fund balance, out of everything that we budget for, the funds used to date, and then the current funds balance there is 23,000. That means your tax levy that we are issued at highway, the 1,663,500, it's pretty much gone halfway through the year, and then we're pretty much living off the revenues that we're making. What's gonna end up happening, and what has been happening, the big change was in 2017, 1.3 million was transferred from highway back to general fund, and that started us on a pretty nasty downhill slope. And then tax levy has been a constant reduction since 2001, finally settled out in 2021. So in the past 20 years, we're basically looking at just under $1 million loss in tax levy. And that's fine, but the cold hard reality is, as we continue, if we remain stagnant, which is that tax levy, we're gonna end up going negative almost every single year, because since COVID, we've had nothing but increases in material costs and construction costs. We can no longer afford to keep this up as far as maintaining, actually doing roads without a more of an investment from the county to do so. Because if we just survive off what we're getting tax levy and a little bit of revenues, we're gonna be basically grinding at a zero each year. And that is literally just gonna cover your administration costs just to have the staff there. That's gonna cover your mowing, your patching, and then the one auxiliary piece is gonna be that wheel tax. And that is the only saving grace that we're gonna have, is just doing the seal coating per year, about 15 miles. Until the costs go up on that, we have to do a reduction there. So this is the cold hard reality. I know in the yellow at the bottom there, we do receive a check from the state of Wisconsin, January of every year. That's from WisDOT. It's their cost share for having the salt shed and so on and so forth. We did find 200,000 of that. We can move around into another account, and that should theoretically put us at about 280 some thousand right now. And then the happy thought at the bottom, if somehow, some way, shape or form that the tax levy that was taken in 2017 was ever put in, that would be theoretically where we'd be sitting today of the 1.8. But that's not reality. Reality states that with the most accurate information given, just running off our tax levy alone, halfway through the year, we only got $23,000 left. That doesn't buy you anything. And this, again, has been a long time coming, just because we've been stagnant and reduction to stagnant level with nothing but increases on cost. So.
Can you give me a little background on why that transfer in 2017 happened? What was the deal there?
This was, again, before my time as a highway commissioner. There was a loan the county did. Part of it, I think, was for highway work apparently, and then some was for, I think, sheriff's department cars. And they took $1.3 million from highway and transferred it back to general fund to cover some of those costs. So something was done for highway, but we ended up a large chunk of dough for that. And that was taken, that debt, as far as I'm aware, has been paid off by the county, but it was never restored back to the highway department. It's resolution, there is a resolution for it. It's resolution 17 dash. Did we ever get to the bottom which resolution that was? No, I think Derek's still looking for it.
I think we were coming short on funds in the general levy because of our shared revenues that weren't there. So
That was like our first year.
other second, they were grabbing for different things to try to fund stuff. So that's why we took that out of it.
Well, there's a big pile of money.
Yeah. The other saving grace is we invested, since the current staff at highway took over, we invested heavily in what we had to put back in the roads, because one of the things that we do get is a GTA from the state of Wisconsin. We have to invest to build that back up. So we have been able to bring that back from like 570,000. Now we're pushing over 600,000 again. We do expect that to increase, but downfall is in future years, if we don't fund road projects and complete them, that's going to go down.
Yeah, and then you don't see that, or that doesn't come back right away. That's a couple of years down the road before you see that. And you gotta invest for a couple of years before you're gonna see that money come back in GTA.
Right.
So that 17 thing now coming back, that was when institutional costs went out of control over there. They budgeted for over there, it wasn't meeting
Well, it never
But they
happened.
had, it never did, because they didn't do that. Patrick was the administrator over there at the time, and that was a big to-do down over there because we were gonna be deficit, and I think that's where they were pulling the money from. Amongst other areas to try to make that complete over there with that mandated institutional cost.
Yeah,
Because that's when Bob Bellman resigned, and I think Patrick then left shortly after that, somewhere in that time frame. And then about 2018 is when we started hiring for that thing, that's when you come on the board.
Yep, and every year, the first 2 years I was on the board, we budgeted 100,000 for institutional costs. And then in April, when we balanced the books, we'd spend $1 million. Because it wasn't even real. You know what I mean? It was making, and for whatever reason, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no sense hashing out the past.
It doesn't matter, it's not.
This is what we have to look at today and kind of look at what happened. Just reality states, like, we can still function off the 1.663,500, but you're looking at a net zero of construction out on roads anymore. We're literally gonna be doing the bare bones maintenance, and that's, hopefully we never have a flood, hopefully we never have an extremely bad winter that's gonna drive us into the ground. You're gonna start seeing that as the auditors are gonna start presenting the kind of change that we've had in our balances since COVID, since all the cost increases and trying to get this work done, it's driving our worth down, you know, our value. And like I said, we can ride a hard line, we're going to, but it's just, I mean, the county's gotta start looking at, how they're gonna do these road projects, because right now, if we just maintain the 6 miles of road per year, that's a 57-year rotation on roads, which I've explained before. We go to doing even less, gravel roads it is. So,
How's our new shared revenue coming along? 800,000 now.
Well, a lot of things that take into that, isn't it? You know, meetings I go to for townships, it's the same story everywhere. That's not the average road is like 50 years on return. I mean, that's a real number.
yep, that's why we went to that numbers, because I try to be comparable with the other counties that surround us. 57 years, it's a pretty standard number across the board.
It's unfortunate, but that's a real number. We got what, 330 miles or something?
We got 308 miles of county road, depending on the year what they recognize. And then we got another 150 miles of state highway, but they take care of state.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry, I mean, other than labor. that goes-
That's a lot of what we survive off of is the RMA, the routine maintenance agreement from the state, and then our little DMAs that we get on the side. That's what takes guys off the county's payroll and kind of makes it survive a little bit longer. Or we're pretty hungry, like going and doing work for townships and then some of the other departments, because that's less burden onto our tax levy portion and highway, because we can transfer that tit for tat. So I mean, like I said, this is what we're gonna look at from now on, so everybody's kept up to date with revenues versus expenses and at the final line. And I just wanted to make that start sinking in, that the days of, you know, a $2.2 million tax levy, we're sitting good and we have money sitting in the account to cover major expenses. I mean, those days are gone. And that's just, again, reality of where we are. And in my opinion, what we know as a standard, you should have 17% of your net equity sitting in that account that's kind of untouched, waiting for emergency situation. We ain't gonna have that anymore. Which means that we do have a major fallout event, a flood, or, you know, heaven forbid, another culvert collapses in the middle of the night that's 20 feet underground, you know, that'll kill us. And that's the bright, shiny, happy news I have for you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, the only thing I'll say is there's always a time to find what you can find, right? And everybody has to get better at finding what you can find. And then you get the real fact of what it is. That's the only thing I would ever say to anybody, is I realize this is what it looks like right now, but go into it with the mindset of, okay, what can I do to make this better? And then come up with the real number of, okay, this is what, at the end of the day, I mean,
This,
we could say we need this and we need, and we want. Well, there comes a point where the wants and the needs are usually not the same. And I'm not saying you're not doing that. That's not the point I'm trying to make. All I'm saying is it's not gonna get easier to get money. It's not gonna get easier. It's not gonna get cheaper to fix things. It's not gonna get cheaper to buy things. None of that's gonna get better. So as a county, we're gonna have to get better at how we manage money as a whole to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And that's not gonna happen in here, but the county board needs to understand where the money's at. Unfortunately, Trish has got to explain to everybody that this is what it needs to be, or this is what I need to make this work, and then we're gonna have to figure out the best way to get that done. So is it gonna be difficult? Yeah, it's gonna be difficult for a couple of years, but.
So, Mr. Chair, we've had these exact conversations, Trish and I, on how to proceed, and I think one of the best things to do is like, instead of just leaving up to the commissioner, go pick some road to put in for funding for them and away you go. I think the county board needs to work together, decide, what road they're gonna fund and what they can actually have the appetite to go do and kind of go back to the old way of, okay, we're heading into the budget. This is what, in 2026, what road do you want to do, county board? This is how much it's gonna cost. What's your appetite to do so? And that way everybody's on the same page. We're working together to make that work.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, but I mean, it should come from this committee, should take it to the county board and say, okay, this is our option. I mean, that's the reason to have these meetings. I mean, if you look at the bottom of the agenda, the question is how often do you need to have a meeting? Well, if I'm just gonna sit here and listen to stuff that you could send me an email about, there's no reason to have a meeting. But if we're gonna do stuff like that, kind of like we did when I was originally on the board, then it makes sense to go forward with meetings and planning, and this is what we want to do, and I'm all for that. But if we're not gonna do that, we're gonna put it on your lap and Trish's lap and say, you figure it out, then there ain't no sense in us meeting once a month, but that's jumping ahead of the agenda. So at any rate, all right. So number 8, discussion possible action resolution to pay the bills to the Richland County Snowmobile Alliance and the Hillsborough Trailblazers from the 24-25 snowmobile maintenance agreements.
Okay, standard procedure we do every year. This does not come out of the tax levy. This is out of DNR funds. So the snowmobile clubs in Richland County do their standard routine maintenance of the trails, the signage, and then if we have a good year for snow, then they're out there getting the trails prepped and ready to go, and then they report their expenses. And then at the end of the year, which is June 30th, I think it is, we close that out. We take the total of what would DNR owe them for their expenses, and then we calculate that out. Miranda, there should be a copy of the actual resolution, drafted resolution in there. Right there. So this year, being as it was a light winter where we had more rain and fog and so on and so forth, the grand total of the expenses is $14,223.85 that we would cut checks to the Hillsborough Trailblazers and the Richland County Snowmobile Alliance. And then once that check has been cut and completed, then we will get the reimbursement from the DNR for that cost. Mr. Chair.
All right, so we need a motion. Chad? Second, Steve?
Yep. Refresh my memory, who looks over the expenses?
I do.
Any more questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Discussion possible action, resolution approving free admission to the Richland County Fairgrounds for the annual county fair.
Okay, so we've been working on this one for a while, and what we're running into, the biggest outcry for the community is gate fees. One thing we run into is we cannot get enough volunteers to even man the gates. And then everybody's biggest complaint is they have to pay to get into the fair, and then they have to pay for the tickets, so on and so forth. And the biggest reasoning is like the county issues the fair $15,000, and then it has to turn around and get paid back. Well, it turns out that $15,000 is basically used as petty cash for all the cash bags at the gates, so we can actually eliminate having to take that extra from the county, which will eliminate how much we have to return. So we've already promoted it for this year. We're going to run it that way as in free gates, which means we don't have to spend near as much time doing volunteers to man those gates for all hours of the day, and we don't have to set up and tear down And then what we are gonna do is we're gonna charge at the grandstands. So we have two ticket booths, they've been there forever. So we're having, the events are going to be the lumberjack show, high mileage, and then also the demo derby. And we'll charge at the grandstands to try to turn a profit off of that. And then on good years, we can turn around and give some back to general fund. That's the idea. We actually have different breakdowns of scenarios to do that. But the big thing is a resolution has to be passed showing free admission to the fair. Again, this is going to eliminate so much extra hassle with the fair and that amount of volunteers we need to do. And we can also look at actually bringing in more vendors because that's opening up a lot of space. Mr. Chair.
Right. Makes sense. I need a motion to approve free admission to the Richland County Fair. Steve? Second? Gary? Any discussion? Steve?
I just wondered if we have a feel for how the gate seats versus grandstand seats compare.
We actually stand to, as it looks right now, we would stand to make more on grandstand ticket sales than what we would making money at the gates. We expect, at just the one event, the demo derby, we're expecting like $30,000 on that one, because that always packs the grandstands, and in one night we can make 30,000, which is what we used to make on the gate fees for an entire fair weekend. And then whatever little we can make, you know, during the lumberjack show and high mileage, and people will pay to go in there and do that depending on the weather, so.
Well, so they don't have to pay to get in. That's the biggest complaint. I stand there.
As someone who stood at the gate, I
Agree.
It's, and you know, it looks good from the county board too, because it's showing good faith back into the people.
So the next question is how much money does the county board got up front to start to get the fair program rolling this year?
That's already been budgeted for, that 15,000 is,
It's the same.
that's just different.
I realize it's been budgeted for, but my point is then so this is what happens. If fair does poorly, then it doesn't get its money back, right? So basically, in my opinion, it was always like this, okay, we put the 15,000 in the fair. Whatever the fair keeps, keep it in the fair budget. So next year, they have money in the budget so that, I mean, it was just a transfer of, just leave it there and hopefully it would grow so that it could help provide some maintenance and cover the mowing or whatever the case may be.
covered the rain years.
The rain years, whatever it may be, so
They did that one year. Oh. They did that one year.
how much was it?
County loan 30,000 that they allowed us to keep it here.
That wasn't the big argue that you guys had, do you have two different accounts? And somebody was arguing on which one you're gonna put it in and keep it in, if I remember right. But
There's an entertainment account that was just used for entertainment purposes only, and it was through fundraising that the fair board did, and people that donated some money to the fair stayed in that. People that wanted to start grabbing that money, spend elsewhere in the county, so there's a resolution made to keep it there. Then there was the actual account that varied, 65 or whatever it is.
I think the one you're referring to is Fund 33. It's
Fund 33 is that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's currently still has $30-some thousand sitting in there, but they can, you know, just like Harry says, get your hands off it, so it's just sitting there as like an emergency fund, not to be used.
That was for like entertainment purpose, but there, that Fund 65 or whatever it was, there was 30-some thousand that the finance personnel allowed to stay in that account to be spent for whatever. So that was a few years back,
I was on that when that happened.
and they allowed that to go. Janetta was still the share of that.
I was ready to get it, but I think, but anyway. All right, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
who was the first one out?
Steve and Gary.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. All right. Good. If you were standing at the gate, so you could just say, come on in instead of give me $10, $8. Okay, discussion possible action on rules and regulations of county parks.
All right, so this is, update slash cleanup slash whatever you wanna call it. So county parks, the Parks Committee met and we had a discussion on the Viola and Rockridge Park. We recently got Viola redesignated and Rockridge that currently remains, Those two will stay as an actual campground. You can do day use, you can spend the night there, and that's fine. To get things back on par, however, we need to look at a different way of how we're going to make those reservations at the sites, how we're going to maintain it. Trish, you correct me if I'm wrong, if I misspeak on any of this. So the first thing that we're going to do is, first of all, people used to go to the Rockbridge store to get their camping pass, and it was done in person on a piece of paper. It was like $10. Sharon shut that part of it down, so then it came back to the county, which ended up at the highway department. So people would have to come to the highway department without really knowing it to get their paper slip for $10, which $10 doesn't really get you anywhere. And what we found is most people just show up and start camping and don't come and pay. So we were losing money on that. So the solution there is what we want to do is do an online platform through the park's website that's going to have all the campsites properly listed out, mapped out. And then from that website is where you make your payment for the reservation. So that's step one. Step two is setting a fee. $10 was honestly not enough for the amount of work that the county puts into it in funding. So they voted at that committee to raise it to $25 per night per person. Next thing is the length of time that they're going to be able to stay there. They're going to mimic basically the city where they can stay there up to 7 days in a row. And then they must leave for 7 days, and they cannot camp at any other county park, as in opening it up for more people to be able to come there, and then also dealing with squatter problems as well. And then establishing quiet hours of starting at 10 p.m., which 10 p.m. is already the deadline for day use to be completely out of there. And if you're still in there, it's because you paid your fees and parked there at night for camping. I made them very much aware that this is all great, but there's going to be nobody to really police it. There's no staff to drive around and check on this stuff to see if you actually paid for that campsite or not. It's just, we're going to do the best we can to recover whatever we can for revenue to help offset those kind of costs. So we'll be putting this into a resolution form with those key points, $25 per night. It'll be an online entry system and staying 7 days in a row. Then you can sleep for 7 days with quiet hours being at 10 p.m. Mr. Chairman.
Gus, has the Viola Park ever been licensed where we can charge camping yet? I know
Yes.
Terry and I done it, it hadn't.
Yep. We went through all that process. We got the well redone. I worked with the DNR to do so. The well has tested negative or positive for bacteria at that well, even though it's a new well. We just had a meeting about that today. We feel like we need to do some cleaning and replacement of a couple parts that might be storing that bacteria. Once that's done and we get a clean water sample back, the DNR will.
So even the new well is testing that?
Yeah, it's probably just was it a vacuum valve?
It's a vacuum breaker.
Vacuum breaker. It's the
Or
bacteria.
backflow preventer. That was the other one.
Or chlorine in it.
And we actually, if we have to, if that doesn't solve the issue, we can bring in a licensed plumber and he can run like bleach through the system and clear it all out, and then we'll keep trying. But we've ran, I think, 6 tests, and 6 tests has come back positive for that bacteria. So
Would it make any sense, like some of the parts where you get a sticker, like you said, you're so short of staff, but they could drive through there and say, well, this vehicle has a sticker on it, we know they paid somebody.
we'd have to buy the stickers, and then how would we get access to those stickers? I think the best thing to do is like the online platform where you can produce a receipt if you're there. So if we have a discrepancy and it becomes a problem, the sheriff's deputy can actually say, okay, where's your receipt that you paid to be here? They'd have to produce that off their phone.
How does the city do that with all this? Because they don't have 20, unless the police are doing this checking it out.
Police are basically the ones that there's discrepancy, that's what they go do. They don't have somebody that drives around and checks.
That's what I mean. So, and how's it working for them? Did they say, does anybody talk to the city?
Yes, the city so far is happy with what they have going. There's not really much of a complaint coming out of that. Parks Committee had already checked with the city too.
Most of the issues with the park stuff in town is drug use. The cops already get involved.
They're already there anyways. They know if you paid your $25.
Yeah. Steve,
Did you say 25 per person or per site?
Per person, per site.
That's gonna get pretty pricey.
Or was it just 25 per site?
I think it's like,
I think it was just per
There's,
site.
but there's bylaws in there that's so many people for that fee. I can clarify that and go back and review it again.
I'm clear.
What's the city charging?
That's a big difference. I'll clarify. I was also wondered, I can't tell when driving by how many sites there are. You guys decided how many sites?
We actually went and previously mapped it out already, and I bought signage to put there. We just haven't put the posts into the lay those out yet, but we've been working with MIS to do digital maps for it. So we'll have at Viola, there'll be 10 sites there, and then I think there's gonna be 10 identified sites at Rockbridge. And one thing we have to circle back to them on that wasn't clarified is, okay, campers. You know, those campsites are off in the grass, so we want campers pulling off-roaded into the mud, or are we gonna allow them to park on the blacktop, you know, and block the campsites? So we do have some clarifying things there, but just making us aware that a resolution will be coming forward on that.
It's been a while since I was on parks. We always talked about upgrading the bathrooms. Anything been done with that?
Yeah, that's done. We knocked down the old buildings
We
and
did
then,
knock that
yep.
down.
So we utilized the DNR grant that was on the bike trail. We had some remaining funds on that, and then we were able to include those Rockbridge Park on there, and with the addition of Viola, and we were able to knock down the old facilities. We poured concrete slabs and then put 80 accessible porta johns, and the state's paying for that.
Been a while since I've been up there. That's good to hear.
So I was up to Saxon Harbor, which is in Marion County Park, and they got a little pay station here and a little box that's secured with envelopes. When you go to Sauk County, you go to White Mound. You want to park there and you your boat out on there and stay, you got to fill out this little envelope, mark whatever, put your money in that envelope, and put it in a little container like this, and you keep the rip off one thing, put it on your vehicle to show that you paid. And that's the option that we could explore here, other than doing that online.
Same thing in Sauk County at the boat landing.
But those county parks have people that are there all the time going through their parking.
I get it, but we're looking for that, and as long as there's a kiosk and somebody can go pay, people are more willing to pay, and then if there was an issue for squatting, or there was something like, are you supposed to be here? You can at least prove that, hey, well, here's where I paid, and we can get a key, get in there and say, yep, okay, that person paid, and that number matches this number to this envelope. There was an issue, no, we're not gonna be enforcing it. The whole purpose of this, I think, is more or less just to keep preventing squatting, and then we have a legal needs to get rid of some people because there was people staying in county parks. We had no resolution.
I'm game to do it however anybody wants us to set it up. The reason why we chose digital is because everybody's using debit cards and off their phones, and a lot of people don't know there's even fees when they get there, and if they did bring cash, they've got to drive somewhere to get cash.
Right, and you could even specify on there, like, get a QR code, they can go and pay that, as long as they get a receipt or a number that shows that they paid, or whatever, if the cop comes, or, yeah, here's my receipt, I can show my DNR license off my phone, and do all that stuff too.
Yeah, and they should be able to get a receipt sent to them, but the other thing is, I would assume we could set it up that law enforcement would have access to see which sites are rented and reserved and which vehicles are there. The other thing that we talked about is, we do mow all the parks once a week. So if we're seeing the same vehicle there, that does give us the opportunity. And we're not expecting Brian to come and say, hey, you gotta go. But it might even be that we just give them a warning, like, you're on day 8 now, because we saw you here 7 days ago and you're still here. It's time to leave. Because we do worry about that. Somebody coming in and staying there for
What's
3
that?
months of the summer.
It's, yeah,
There
it's
was
gonna
some, we had that by all, they were there for 3 months.
That's been a while.
Yeah. I think you got a couple of different options. I like the online stuff, but I also like the, it's QR code, whatever you can make kind of work for everybody without a lot of extra work.
Well, just think of like,
I'd do some more research into what makes the most sense to either, if I showed up and I had cash, I could pay. And if I showed up, didn't have cash, but I wanted to do it on my phone, I could scan something and pay.
we could do a combination.
That's what I
People
would
need
ask.
more than one option.
Exactly.
well, especially if you've got cell service in the area, especially Viola and Rockbridge, where US Cellular doesn't work very well. People from the bigger cities come in, they don't have cell service that we would have.
Yeah, most of them have right.
Yeah.
One discrepancy we'll run into is they want to maintain the first come, first served to a campsite. There's no like reserving your campsite. You're not going to be there for another week or something. If you do a paper copy and you turn that in, you know, and let's say you went to the gas station really quick, but you paid your fee, and then somebody else comes there and pays online, because that note goes in that site, now we're gonna run into discrepancies. And that's not something we need to be wasting, in my opinion, to be wasting staff's time on trying to sort that out.
Just need your tent set up.
Yeah, you just gotta hurry up, throw all your stuff down, and then you're out of town, get whatever supplies.
When I was on Parks, we used to have a lot of trouble squatting up there. Even one person that broke into the electricity and wired it to their camper. Is that all kind of been solved, or are you still having issues?
Oh, we still have issues. I think there's been two situations this year. One actually happened to be at the fairgrounds where the squatters kind of overstayed their welcome trash, and then the law enforcement got called, keeping pound, all that stuff. So it's like, you just have to deal with it as it comes.
I think the supervisor in that area should be pleasing fellow.
Keep an eye on it.
Talking about arms.
Deputize.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't draft a resolution, because there's more to figure it out. Just throwing
But
out.
we don't need any action, it was just, the discussion's good enough.
Discussion's good enough for now, in my opinion, because I want to take this back again, to Parks in August to, okay, what did anybody else miss? What did we not think of?
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like a good plan. All right, so number 11, I put on here, discussion possible action on the meeting frequency. Now, if, in my opinion, if we're gonna come and be engaged, then we need to have a meeting regularly. If we're gonna come and look at reports and it's past tense, then I don't think we need to meet regularly. But I don't think we're ready to make that decision right now, because it sounds like we want to switch the way we're gonna engage in this meeting. I will say that if there's a month that there isn't much going on, that we could easily, you know, between Josh and if you guys decide that, hey, I ain't got a lot this month, you don't need anything, we could just postpone it to the next month, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I just don't want to waste people's time to come in here and say, if we're gonna come in here for 13 minutes, it made absolutely no sense to come here. That's my opinion. I know we like to have fast meetings, but I just as soon not waste your guys' time, not waste my time. Anybody else?
So we don't put down the second.
No, leave it the way it is, but be prepared that if there's nothing going on, I'm gonna call you and tell you no.
It's default, there will be one, but there may be a cancel.
Yes, let's leave it at that right now until we get a better understanding of where we want to be. I just want to bring it up because, like I said, I don't want to waste you guys' time if it's not something that adds value. Sounds like Randy's got a lot of broken stuff, so it probably adds value every month that we need to be here.
I think,
And Josh needs more money, so we got to come figure out how to do that.
and again, I want to make it clear, I'm not sitting here trying to bully anybody into, take your highway. We're team players. I mean, every department needs more money. I'm just giving you guys the reality of where we're at with things. And it's really up to the county board ultimately to make that decision. We'll run with whatever you give us. It just depends on how much we're gonna fund.
Well, you know, there's a reason why we started borrowing money a few years ago. And there's a reason for it, and sometimes it's needed. Now, if you're just borrowing money, that's different, but it's evident that the maintenance that we've deferred for many years is starting to come to, there's no longer deferral process.
And this stuff that I'm bringing is just my building, or just this building here.
Yeah.
That's not talking about all the other buildings we're running into stuff too. Depending on what buildings we're gonna keep and what we're gonna get rid of, you know, we still got stuff in other buildings that it's not even supposed to be on this list that we're gonna have to come up with too. So,
It's not gonna go away, and
No.
nobody needs to think that there's a quick fix, and there's not the right answer. Every day's got the right answer, right? The information that comes tomorrow is gonna send you down a different path, so we just need to go forward with the right thought process, not wasting, being responsible and doing the right thing with the information that we have. Because you're always gonna be able to look back and say, why the hell did I spend that money there? But at the time, it made sense to do that, so. That's my only spot. All right, future agenda items, any?
I would like to, next time we meet, give a more in-depth review of where we're at on the county road project.
Sounds good.
Will you have the engineer come to the next one?
And then I'll get, yeah, and then the gentleman from
Really cool, like, for.
WHB or whatever he's from.
Who wants to hear about the power project? Which committee do we normally report to? Is that exact?
Yeah, I think that carries
Exactly.
back to law enforcement.
Law enforcement, but yeah, does anybody in this room know where we're at with, other than Chris and Josh, know where we're at, where we stand with the towers?
We can bring it next month.
Yeah, that's fine, add that to the agenda, so.
Carrie probably.
Power project.
And hopefully we'll have information on that generator process we were just talking about, whether we can get a
Contract for everything?
contract for everything, right, including the towers.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a few items. Tower meeting,
Specified on, more specific on the whole project.
yeah, whole project, all right. Correspondence, do we have any correspondence? All right, I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Carries, nice job, that's why they left that.
Nailed it.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, that was Steve Carroll as the second.
Yeah, that's your, Steve.
I said it, I don't know.
Carrie was the one.